Okay, welcome to the 13th meeting, the Budget Committee meeting on April 13th. First order of business tonight is to review and accept the minutes from the March 2nd meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. The purpose of the meeting tonight is to go through the warrant articles, make the Budget Committee's recommendations. There's not an intent to rehear all of the presentations on any of the items, but if there's any specific questions that anyone has on a specific item in there, that can be asked, and we'll get an answer on that. But we've gone through a number of different hearings on all these, so rather than re-exercising all that, just so that people will understand the way the procedure works. I'll read what the proposed warrant article is. That will either be moved or whatever. From that point, you can adjust. You can move to change a figure up, down, or whatever. And if that's done as an amendment, then we'd vote on that. And then if that amendment is accepted, that becomes what is the motion that's on the table at that time. If that motion fails, then it goes back to the original motion as was originally written. Any questions on that? The first article that deals from a budget standpoint or needs a motion from a recommendation of the Budget Committee is Article 8. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen on behalf of the town to sell and dispose of any property acquired by the town for non-payment of taxes pursuant to the policy adopted by the selectmen, as may be amended from time to time. The policy to remain consistent with state statutes and laws. In all cases, conveyances to be made by municipal quitclaim deed.
Motion to recommend.
Second. Discussion?
What? I'm sorry, where are these?
Page 7.
Page 7.
Oh, I see it
Page
now.
7, sorry.
All right. Got it.
That's article number 8.
I know. Oh, okay.
We're set.
Great. Thank you. The blonde's caught up.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Article 9. To see what date taxes will be due and to set an interest rate for unpaid amounts. The selectmen recommend the first half to be due on October 31st, 2014, the second half to be due April 30th, 2015, with an interest rate of 7% on any unpaid balances.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Those dates are wrong.
They are. The dates are wrong.
Oh, yes, we should, 16.
Okay?
Was it?
2015 and 16.
So that'll be, okay. So the correct motion should read, the selectmen recommend the first half to be due October 31st, 2015, the second half to be due April 30th, 2016. It was moved by Bob, seconded by Brian. Question? Yes.
Is the 7% the maximum allowed by the state treasurer?
Yes.
Yes.
The dates that are called out for now are both Saturdays. Is that acceptable?
But they're not open on a Saturday, are they?
Yeah.
Town office.
Town office is open on
Oh.
Okay,
Saturday.
as long as that's an acceptable business day, that's fine.
Town office is open on Saturday.
Okay.
Some Saturdays. Actually,
That's true.
actually, the tax box is out on the outside of the building.
Right. Dropbox.
Dropbox.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Article 10. To see if the town will vote to set an interest rate to be paid by the town on abated taxes at 7% for the fiscal year.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of town-owned personal property with a value not to exceed $35,000.
Move to recommend.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to borrow from or appropriate from undesignated fund balances, surplus, as they deem advisable to meet the unanticipated needs of the community that occur during the fiscal year, with the amount not to exceed $75,000.
Move to recommend.
Second?
Discussion? Those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Article 13, to see if the town will authorize the selectmen for the fiscal year 2015-2016 to transfer funds between appropriation accounts as long as the grand total of all appropriations is not exceeded. Any such transfers to be approved only at a properly called public meeting of the selectmen.
Move to recommend.
Second?
Discussion? Those in favor? Opposed? Article 14, to see if the town will vote to authorize the use of town employees and/or town-owned equipment or independent contractors hired by the town for maintenance on private roads, in special and certain circumstances whereas in the public interest. Notes of explanation, 3 examples: tying in work on a public road that intersects a private road, plowing snow on a private road to clear a way for an emergency response apparatus, in rare and emergency situations, maintaining private roads for school bus access to special education students as deemed necessary.
Move to recommend?
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I will abstain from this. I own a private road.
Other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Just as a, I'm curious, I thought we had where if it's clearing a road for a school bus for special education, why would that not be picked up under the school budget?
Back, quite a few years back, we had 2 handicapped children on private roads, and unfortunately we had to maintain to their driveway so the bus could pick them up at the house. That's been there since then. We haven't done that for, it's been over 10 years now.
Yeah, but 10 years ago when we did that,
Part
the
of the
school
school system.
budget was part of the, the overall town setup.
Yeah, it was part of state law, I believe it is. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's state law that required us to. So I would assume that if we had the same situation now, even with the RSU, we'd have to accommodate that, understand?
I guess, well, of course, some of that depends on where things ultimately end up, but whether that's something we should look into, whether that's a chargeback.
Yeah, we could look into that. As you point out, at the time, of course, it was a department, not an RSU, so we'll take a look at that and get back to you.
I mean, it's not something that comes up very often anyway, but
I thought a few years, I mean, I haven't been paying that much attention to the RSU in the past few years, but a few years back when we first became the RSU, they adopted Wyndham's school policy to not go down private roads. So if that's still the policy, then this would have to kick in by state law, right?
I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah.
When we did it, we were forced by state law,
Right.
and it superseded our own policies here.
Yeah. But I thought the school policy, the RSU policy now is that the buses do not go down private roads.
We have the same
Anymore?
policy here, I believe, when
Yeah.
when it was doing the small school system. But because the state law required us
Right.
to pick the kids up at, it was only two places, one Spring Valley Road, I think it was, and the other one was down here on Bergen Hill.
So 2 questions, are we required to do it, and then if we're required to do it, who pays for it? So we'll look into that. I mean, it was a different setup 10 years ago. We haven't had it apparently since then.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look at it and get back to you.
Peter?
And there's essentially two disclaimers right in that same sentence. It says in rare or emergency situation,
Right.
and at the end, as deemed necessary. So it's a long ways from
Yeah.
being an automatic.
Totally.
That might be something nice to have in our back pocket if we need it.
Article 15, see if the town will vote to authorize the tax collector or treasurer to accept prepayments of taxes not yet committed pursuant to 36 MRSA subsection 506.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor? Opposed? Carries?
Was that an opposition?
No, I'm sorry, it was a sleepy.
That was a late raise. That was a late raise.
Sorry.
Article 16. To see if the town will vote to appropriate $225,376 from the tax increment of the Pipeline Route 302 Tax Increment Financing District for fiscal year 2015-16 projects proposed in the TIF program.
I'll move Article 16.
I'll second that.
You
Discussion.
changed it?
I'm wondering if the folks in the back might be, we had some additional communication from the Potvins, and if is it possible to have them speak now? Or would you prefer that we table this and do it during the public?
I'll give them a couple minutes to talk, but I think that this is the recommend. If we're going to do something different, we have to amend the motion that's on the floor.
That's fine. I didn't know when you'd like, but I'd like to give them the opportunity to speak if possible.
I'll allow a couple minutes.
Quick question.
Yes.
The figure for RWPA, 17.5, that's that just a portion of total RWPA? Put that in full amount, is it?
That's the amount that the town provides to RWPA.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Their budget is larger than that.
Larger, okay, but
Yeah.
that's the
That's what they-
100% from the town portion. Thank you.
And I apologize, I have actually positional orthostatic tachycardia, so I'm not a good stander. Can everybody hear me, or do I need to grab that? All right.
Well, we can, but you probably, yeah.
Oh, okay, great, yes. And actually, I apologize for, I've had some untimely health issues, and actually, this has been part of the effort to get Sebago as a whole turned over to the professionals, including involvement of the municipalities through a coordinated effort on the ecosystem as a whole. The reality is DEP has not set up incentives for the not-for-profits to work together in a cooperative manner in looking at the ecosystem. So really, not just our beautiful natural recreational resource, but our economic base, our taxation base that helps us keep our mill rate where it is threatened by not having a plan that monitors and a program that can jump in and help prioritize additional projects. So this project, actually, we were just awarded $15,000 from DEP. And since the last meeting and discussions with Don, my husband and I, Gary, have agreed to donate. It's actually about $1,300 for the surveying in different spots in Sebago, and decrease the contribution requested from each town to $970. with the understanding that at least at some of the towns, that gives the committees and town managers more flexibility in terms of where the funds can come from and how they can manage that. This is definitely an adjunct. We are huge fans of RWPA. We have been some of their top donators, top fundraisers. We donate as mucky as it is. It works fabulously. They offload milfoil from Turtle Cove, Northern Jordan Bay, onto our property. My husband donates his time and our equipment to bury it. So it's just that they operate on a shoestring. And up to last year, only got 50% matches. And before even going to Don's office, I went to our local legislator to go and to Augusta, and we actually got the grant improved from a 50% match to an 80% match. So that's why I'm coming to you now with a $970 request, because I knew a $6,000 request was unlikely just to be even reasonably manageable. But RWPA does not have a penny to spare, and that's the challenge. But this is going to bring economic flexibility. Things like adding a park, adding a ramp, the fear of, well, what will happen if there's a few pieces of milfoil, or what happens. I have reached out to Maine Volunteer Lakes Monitoring Program, who is the expert. They are the longest running organization of their kind in the country. They are one of the most highly recognized, and they have actually already offered, as part of this project, to coordinate their volunteers so that if there's a small patch of, he's worried about me, sorry, of, a few feet, that they will send their volunteers in first, yes, to identify it. That's what happens now. But in the past, DEP and the Water District, nobody else guaranteed more than placing it on a map when people have called to report. Now, if we start this project, they will send their volunteers in and recruit to train more. So Sebago has a community network of people qualified. So we don't have this fear. So we can do things on our lakefront and build our economic base, as well as protect what we have. I think it will be some of the best $970 we've spent, but please don't take anything away from RWPA if you consider this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mark?
Just a point on numbers. The original TIF in the last draft budget was $228,376. This has been reduced by $3,000. This number is that. So we're looking at increasing this by $970, this particular Article 16. Is that what we're doing?
We're not looking at anything right now, because the motion that's on the table is for the 225,376.
And I think that was my motion, and I will withdraw that.
Well, actually you can't.
Okay.
Because you've made it, it's been seconded, so that you're no longer on the motion.
Okay.
What can be done is you can offer an amendment to the motion.
Okay.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure that's the direction that this is going, because I didn't add up the other TIF, but I think that 3,000 was removed from the TIF. So I will amend my motion to add $970 to Article 16.
I'll second that.
What I'm trying to remember is where we were on the TIF. I know we were tight, close to the top of the TIF, the top of the TIF. And I was thinking we had 500 to play with, but I don't know. Nancy, do you happen to know what the...
I know that right
Anything
now,
like
Kurt
900
has
plus.
advised us that we
Gets
have
to the-
226,000,
Yeah.
but until taxes are committed, we won't know for certain.
The motion would be to add
Okay.
970 to that amount, it's gonna go in.
Brian, it should be 226,876,
226,876?
if that's
So-
what we talked about
Okay,
in
that-
our meeting.
All right, so it gives us 1,500 of flex in there then. Because right now it's a 225,376, right?
Right.
Is that correct, Nancy, or was it, did
That's-
we have to get rid of the 876?
876 was without subtracting the 1,500.
So if we add the 970 to that, it would come to 226,346.
That's the number I guess.
So that's the question, is
Is that
whether
what you
that keeps us below.
Is it 226 even, Joe?
It'd be 227,360.
My notes
Oh,
say
sorry.
226,876 was the target.
226,876 was the target?
That was the target.
Yeah, that's what I had in my notes back.
It'd be 226,346.
So we would be below the TIF cap.
If you add in the 970, you're at 226,346.
That's
Right,
correct.
So that would put us below the cap.
That's what you said?
That's what I said.
I guess I will.
So the motion that's actually, the proposed amendment is to recommend 226,346.
Correct.
The discussion on the amendment.
It just, I think it's unfortunate that we haven't had the chance up until now, so this is kind of last minute, but at the same time, I'm a big believer that anything that we can be doing, I think there's some open gaps in some of our thinking about exactly how is this coordinated and the like. One of the concerns that was brought up by the select board was the funding of a private citizen. At the same time, I believe that there's, compassion and passion for what you're doing and what the Potvins are bringing forth. And I think it's the kind of thing where spending $970 and then looking at it, as we move forward. I think it's a worthwhile, if you want to call it a gamble, it's a worthwhile investment for the kind of coordination.
In terms of the actual funding, it would be to Maine Lakes Volunteer Monitoring
Okay,
Program.
we'll go to DLMP.
Exactly, so they are a well-established organization and really set the standards for lake quality monitoring.
But it would be going to them with the understanding that this is something which you are
They-
spearheading the
They are the project managers. I have kind of been the
cheerleader.
the cheerleader who got the legislation started, who said, okay, I got the legislation started to make something happen on Sebago, and I'm not giving up until we recognize Sebago as an ecosystem, that Raymond touches Casco, where Dingley Brook goes in, that Standish touches, in that where if there's a bloom nearby, both towns need to be involved, and if something moves from one town to another, again, we need to look at it annually from a comprehensive perspective.
Have I heard that all 7 towns around the lake are contributing $970?
They are all being asked to. Some of the town managers have just said, we'll find it, and some have said, we're still in the budget review process. But they all have supported this project, in terms of sending a letter of recommendation and being at meetings where it was agreed that it makes sense.
And where is this organization you mentioned? It's new to me. Where is that located? Where is
They're
it based?
actually based out of Auburn.
They're a group that is involved with all lake organizations to help kind of create the volunteer lake monitoring program.
It's not COLA.
It's not COLA.
No, and it's
No,
not the gentleman from Bridgeton.
Nope. It's not
It's
LEA.
No, a
It's-
different one.
Yeah, this is a group that's very aware of helping kind of facilitate the monitoring and then the remediation of issues.
And I know I forwarded the proposal and then the grant itself, but basically the concept is that, again, not being a professional manager of the quality needed for this, that's not my background, it's healthcare planning actually, but that somebody of MVLMP's quality was necessary, and that really the not-for-profits have been set up to compete against each other and not work cooperatively with historic DEP models. So trying to set a new model where there's some incentive to say, okay, apply for an RFP and either one of them will get everything, or if they want to apply, they'll get one of the various small projects that are prioritized each year by town representatives. And you can work out with Dawn how you select Raymond's representatives.
Other questions on the amendment?
I've got a question. How much money are they taking out of the TIF? I'm confused now.
How much was it?
How much money is actually the 17.5, and then they're asking for 9.50?
This is a different group, just so.
It's totally,
Some of those are just
Totally different.
examples of the total appropriation.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so what we're voting on now is to accept the amendment. We're not voting on the final figure yet. All those in favor of accepting the amendment? Opposed? Now we'll vote on the actual article, which would then say the Budget Committee recommends $226,346.
Yep.
Discussion on that?
Will the article be rewritten to include this new organization as one of the
No.
examples?
The article will be as written there. It will say the Budget Committee, if we vote to say yes, it'll say the Budget Committee recommends $226,346.
When will that be explained, the difference between the two numbers? At town meeting?
Yes.
So is the 970 added to the 17.5?
No.
It's not, so it's a
Separate organization.
That one on the bottom, the 1,500, will just be changed to 970.
They may not have that one.
No, you took that out.
They took it out, yeah.
The one that we have didn't have that. All right?
Thanks.
So does everyone know where we're,
Okay, yeah.
all those in favor,
I think so.
opposed? Carried at $226,346.
Thank you.
Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $548,374 from the administration account.
Move to recommend?
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor? Opposed? Carried? Let's see, Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $52,379 for the assessing account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried? Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $18,885 for the town hall account.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried? Let's see, Article 20. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $490,187 for the insurance account.
Move to recommend?
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I see those numbers have changed from the original budget submission. Originally, we were at 483,621. We are now 7,000 plus over that. I see back, Social Security, unemployment. Back in our workshop meeting, we made some adjustments to those numbers. But I don't see that actually comes out to that additional 7,000.
We added 7,000 into the liability vehicle insurance line.
Actually, we can,
That's what, I think that's where the bump was.
yeah, that's your bulk. You also had some increase in social security and whatnot because of the increase in the labor rates. That was moving around, I can't remember why.
That increase on liability insurance, that was a hard bid, right? That's not an estimate.
Actually, I think the 7,000 brought us to 496.21, but then there was a reduction. Didn't you have some kind of, a slight reduction that came back?
There were some changes in, because some employees are now getting 2% instead of 4%.
Right, that's what it was. Right. So that it impacted it as well.
Yeah, 'cause that actually, when we finished that night, we were at
496.21? Is that what we had?
no, we were at 496.21.
Yeah.
And so now we're at 491.87.
So it drifted down a little bit.
The discussion on insurance? All those in favor? All those in favor?
I'm sorry, which, is we keeping the 490?
490.187.
Okay.
Opposed? Carried. Article 21. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $6,000 for the general assistance account.
Move to recommend.
Second. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? No. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $184,271 for the technology department account.
I will move that.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Brian?
I think what the select board did here was, I thought it was very wise, is that they reduced the amount, and I'm trying to get my number together, by a small, relatively small amount. But with the idea that the technology team could find a little bit and help reduce that a little bit. One comment I will make, just kind of to put it on the, we now have the advantage of on YouTube of being able to see how many people have streamed, not during the live stream, but how many people are looking at the broadcast afterwards. And they're relatively small numbers. I looked at the last 3 select board meetings, not including the most recent one, because that one's fairly recent. And it was, the January meeting was 16 views, the February meeting was 18, the March meeting was 20. The budget finance, we didn't do as well. We were down at 0 on 1, 15 and 10. So,
You're not as handsome as me.
That's what I was going to say, Joe. And I clearly don't dress as well either. So, but it does make me think that there is a fair amount of money now. This particular line has both broadcast and the technology. But I looked at the Wyndham budget for technology, and I would say that we're spending a fair amount on technology, and it's just, I think, something that we kind of keep an eye on, because it's a very difficult thing for us I'm speaking for myself as a layperson, to understand what we're voting on. There's a lot of numbers, and I know the word server and things, but I don't know all of that. But I would say that this is a place where the numbers have crept up over the year, and I think what the select board did, which was say, hey, see if you can find a few bucks, was wise, and it's one that since I have one more year on I can say I'll keep an eye on for the future, make sure that this is money wisely spent. Thanks.
Other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Article 23. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $51,651 for the community development account.
I'll move to recommend.
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
That's an increase of 5,000 from what we discussed.
Yeah, this is the movement from the TIF into here for the RTP, for the bus. We moved it out of the TIF and into the community development.
Oh, yeah, right there. That's already in there.
Sorry, the select board did.
So that's in
The
there.
buses in
Right.
Peter?
Yeah.
I'm not in favor of any funding for this account. I've seen the bus twice today, and the driver was having a nice ride.
Wait a minute, are you, you're not in favor of the total community development, you're not in favor of including the bus in there?
Including the bus anywhere.
That's what I thought you were saying.
So I could make a motion, I suppose, to take 5,000 out of that.
You could, if you so desire.
Well, by observing what has gone on at the last two meetings, the last select board meeting and the workshop, I think I'd just be wasting my time, so I'm not gonna make a motion.
Brian?
I would say, I thought the select board was, again, deliberated on this quite a long time, and I kind of came out to the same place, which is, it was a mixed kind of point of view on it. I do think that if we give them one more year, I think they're very much on call that there has to be, a ridership increase that's pretty dramatic. I know, Marshall, where you're coming from, which is, it'll never be a break even at all, and so the question is, do you get out now before?
Well, it's one of those things that the town either gets involved or doesn't.
Yeah.
I would say no now.
Yeah. The one thought I had was, and I will go to the next, I wasn't able to make the last Raymond Revitalization Committee meeting, but Danielle was kind enough to remind me that I said and committed to going there and saying, how can we link in what the Revitalization Committee's doing to the RTP, so that maybe we can get some folks out utilizing our businesses and the like, from Portland and from Wyndham and from Naples for that matter, and coming in, and I'm committed to doing that. And am I think it's am I confident that they'll get to the place that we need to get to in a year? No, but I hate to pull a fuse before the chance for there to be some nice fireworks, so that's why I would suggest that maybe one more year.
I see the Lake Region bus going up and down the 302 corridor. I work in Naples. I see them stop in Naples to try to pick up people. I see them stop in Casco to pick up people. I see them stop at Sunset to pick up people. Well, they aren't there very long, but they wait the appropriate amount of time just in case someone shows up. There are a few residents that do ride the bus. I'd like to suggest to RTF that they increase their ridership fees. But that being said, I'd like to give it one more year and see where the program goes, and then make probably a different decision next year.
Deb?
How many years has we been with this bus?
3 years. 2. So it's
This is our first year of funding.
Yeah,
There hasn't ever been any
This
funding
is the
before.
first 5,000 we spent.
From the town.
How long has the bus been on the road as far as
2
picking
years.
up? 2 years? And we've got how many people actually taking the bus?
2.5.
Nick?
I didn't know about the bus except for word of mouth, and I don't think there's much information out there about it. So, I don't know if they need to do it or somebody needs to get some information out to people so that they know it's there. I live 10 miles from that bus if I wanted to take it, so.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest challenges.
That's one of the things that they have recognized as a weakness, and they're going to be working on in the coming year. So I think there is going to be a significant publicity effort and an effort to outreach to all the different groups in all the different towns. And of course, you've got an expanded reach on the bus, hopefully with the addition of some towns that were not previously served. So I think you'll have your 1 year of maybe a more intensive effort to see if that yields any appreciable results. If it doesn't, then you can look at it again, sure.
Further discussion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Article 24. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $666,477 for the fire rescue department account.
Move to recommend?
Second.
Discussion? Nick?
Where, that's 5,000 less, where did that go? Just out of curiosity. Where was the savings
Came
made?
out, it was a reduction in a number of different items. They took
Oh, it was
500
so
out of operations, 500 out of travel, 500 out of building maintenance, 250 out of new equipment, 1,000 out of gas and oil, 500 out of vehicle maintenance, 500 out of equipment and repair, 250 out of radio repair, and 250 out of heating.
Bro, we gave them a 5,000 day determined.
They decided where to come.
That's what I was curious.
Yeah,
It seemed
so
like an
we
awful
didn't
even
do
number
that
to.
as a select board.
Well, that's, what
Somebody-
I'm
somebody
highlighting
else
is
did
that, you know, but I mean, that's where the differences show up versus what we had in the
Chief
previous.
can probably answer, or Nancy, but we just,
Oh, they have already.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because, as I say, that's the differences from version 1 to version 2. Peter?
I will say that I hope they don't run out of gas just shy of my house.
We'll get a siphon hose.
They're hoping the fuel prices go down so they can buy enough to get to your house. Bob?
I'd like to preface my comments that I will be abstaining from voting since I am an officer, lieutenant in charge of fire police for the town of Raymond. In the process of these deliberations, I've heard some pretty disturbing comments, and it goes to prove, I think, that many people are not educated on the mission of the fire and rescue department and the requirements by, I'm drawing a blank, NFPA for equipment. Again, I'm not prepared to speak for the chief, but even to the point of hearing that we don't understand why the department is a volunteer department. Again, abstaining to vote, I would, and to give the department an option where to find 5,000 to decrease in their budget, I'm not in favor of that decrease.
Other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Article 25, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $16,222 for the animal control account.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Oh,
The only thing I was going to say was I'm hoping I was heartened. I've said this before, but I was heartened to hear that we're looking at the potential of doing something across towns, because it's a lot of money, you know, for what I don't believe is that many active animals that go into the one that kind of gets to me is it's the Animal Refuge League, and it's nothing against the Animal Refuge League, but it's quite a fair amount that we pay. So I'm glad that the town's looking into possibly doing something cooperatively with other towns in the area.
Probably not reflected in this budget in terms of revenues. Having talked to the animal control officer, I understand that the town is being more proactive in seeking violators of non-licensure of their dogs, and so you know there's an additional revenue there that we may see that is not reflected in this budget.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. To see if the town, Article 26, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $21,816 for the infrastructure account.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Article 27, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $687,418 for the Public Works Department account.
Move to recommend?
Second.
Discussion.
Just a question, that's also up $1,000 from what we discussed at the last meeting. Any idea what that?
Let's see.
2% for non-management,
Yeah, we had some that was salary.
2% for non-management. Is it an additional?
Was it
Got it.
incremental? Was it additional added money? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
probably the 2%.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
the 2%.
Okay,
Troublemaker
that's
there.
good, just.
Keep 'em all.
That's the biggest part of the budget increase for the increasing to 2% was in public works.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Let's see. Article 28, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $314,742 for the solid waste account.
Move to recommend?
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Article 29, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $20,000.48 for the cemetery account. Or $20,048. Sorry.
Move to recommend.
Making a cut there.
Second.
That's supposed to be 16.
Sorry about that.
It went up.
I don't know where the
guess
48
they
cents came
added
from, but discussion?
Wasn't the cemetery, wasn't it 16.5 the last time we spoke?
No.
No?
Well, there was about 16,000 on the contract
That was-
services, but then there was incremental
General
money for
maintenance.
repair.
General
16,000 was
maintenance
just
and
the-
repair.
It was 16,000 for what?
The contract
16,000 was
services.
for the contract services.
Okay.
And then there's an
And there's
additional
4,000 for
4,000.
the repair and maintenance. So the total was the 20,048. That
Okay.
hasn't changed from the original.
Okay. Thank you.
Discussion?
Oh, yeah, at the top.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Opposed? Carried. Article 30, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $14,338 for parks and recreation.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Discussion.
Question, I thought we talked about the Raymond Rattlers, removing that, $800, or was that a cut from?
It was cut. It was
1,600,
originally
okay.
1,600.
That's right,
It was
okay.
800.
Thank you.
Other discussion, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Article 31, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $55,500 for the Raymond Village Library.
I'd like to propose a motion.
Okay.
Going to make a different motion. I move that Article 31 be revised, whatever the appropriate language is, to raise and appropriate $52,500 for the Raymond Village Library.
Is there a second to that?
I'm sorry, so you're reducing it, 3,000? Taking 3,000 out?
2,500.
What's the 3,000? Just curious. What's
Okay,
Oh,
well,
Mr. Chairman, I'll second this for discussion purposes.
okay, I misspoke.
Sorry.
possibly with my number.
We'll be at 53 then?
It'd be at 53,000. That number is really composed of two.
This is what we got.
Okay.
So,
I'm gonna,
so 2,500.
I'll make it 53,000.
50.
I
Okay.
revise my motion. I misspoke.
So you're saying 53,
1,000.
Even.
So reduction of $2,500.
That's right. That's what I intended to do.
the motion on the floor right now is for the budget committee to recommend $53,000. That's open for discussion right now. Next.
I'm sorry, what's the 2,500? Is it just that a number across the board, or was it a specific item that
increase.
I couldn't remember?
I'm ready. I think I can answer your question.
Okay.
Okay. Just to give a slight background here, according to testimony submitted by the Raymond Village Library Board of Trustees, their operating expense annually is $104,920.
Right.
That's what they propose. Current fiscal year donation by the town is $40,000. That is approximately 38% of the total library operating budget. Their original request was for $60,000, which would have made that would have been 57% of the $104,920. When we had our workshop, the full board budget finance committee was here. There were 3 members of the select board, nine people present. If I do that, 12 people present. Excuse me, my math is not good tonight. After discussion, the workshop motion was to approve approximately $52,460. I'd like to round that to $52,500 just to keep. And that would have been an even 50% town donation to the operating budget, which a majority of the 12 people at the meeting seemed to approve by straw vote. At the last select board meeting, it was, with a surprise to me, there was a motion made by one selectman to increase that by $2,500 without any explanation or testimony given, which raised it to the amount you see in the original article funding. And I think that the amount that was approved at the workshop is more appropriate, reducing it to 50% of the library operating budget. The chairman of the Board of Selectmen at that select board issued a challenge to the library to try and bring it down to 50%. Perhaps, as I recall, by increasing the request for voluntary funding. And I say, why wait another year? Let's make it 50% now. They can still have that challenge, and anything they can do to make it less than 50, the rest of us taxpayers would appreciate. So therein lies my reasoning for my motion.
Thank you. I couldn't remember.
Point of discussion, I will not be supporting the motion. As the article is written now, we've asked the Raymond Village Library to go out and find their own and fundraise an additional $51.95. I like that challenge with all the people that have written and spoke for the library. I think that amongst its members, that's a fundraising task that's realistic. So therefore, I will support the original article and not the current motion.
Other discussion? The motion?
Well, Peter, I think you have it's a good rational argument, and the one reason I'm going to agree with what Bob's saying is that I do think that we both put down the challenge from the chairman of the select board to the library, and I think they've taken that challenge up. And secondly, this gets to the question of what does a small town provide? And I do think that while we don't provide some of the things that a more suburban town does provide, one of the things that a small town critically needs is a strong library. And I think the library has shown that over the last couple of years, they really increased the amount of utilization usage. And as I look at how the money's being utilized, for the most part, it's for increased services. So I do think we compromised in a place where rather than they getting all of the increase that they'd hoped for, they're getting a portion of it. And I still, again, totally respect where you're coming from and how you got there, but I'll support the amount that was made in the original article. Thank you.
If I might make this,
I'd like to respond. See, we are taking it from 38% now up to, with my motion, up to 50%.
Mhm.
That's a significant jump.
That's true.
Can we just go back a little bit on this library thing, just to clarify something?
Mhm.
Okay, they came to us and asked us for 60,000, correct, at the beginning?
6695.
Okay. And some of it was going to be to upgrade their system, supposedly, at the library?
A small amount.
26,000 was gonna be
2600.
2,600?
Yeah.
Was gonna be for upgrading. And the other part was going to go towards people getting a raise.
Well, there's increased hours
And
too.
increased staffing for programs.
Okay, I just wanna get this all clarified.
Yep.
That's all. So we're paying for people getting a raise and upgrading the system at the library, correct?
And technical support is a new line item for them this year.
There's additional
And that's
15
part
hours
of-
per week of
So they're gonna
staff time. There'll be more staffing. So it's not only an increase in the, and there was a increase in the wage,
be, right?
but there's also there's an increased incremental number of hours of staffing per week. So as I calculated it, $8,920 had to do with staffing. Of that, $7,800 was the incremental hours, and only, sorry, my math's never that fast, $1,120 was due to the increase in the rate, the pay rate.
Okay.
But you're right, there was a pay rate in there. But it wasn't that all of that money that was around the staffing money was going to pay rates.
It's more hours of
Okay.
service.
More hours.
And the town is not responsible for the library, correct? Or it is?
it is not.
Technically
It's not a
not.
town department.
We support it.
Okay,
It's a non-profit corporation.
thank you.
Marshall?
One of the things that bothered me about the library presentation is that they ran a deficit of $10,000 in their budget, and now they're expecting the town to pay for that. That really rubbed me the wrong way.
Also, I had, I know that it says that they apply for a lot of grants and things, but it's never really broken down as to what they apply for and what they're denied and what they, I mean, I know they mentioned a couple of them, what they get and how much, I guess. But I was curious, I would like to, I mean, I like the library, but I thought it might be an interesting challenge for me to see if there's some more grants out there for them, because, I mean, they are a non-profit, not a town, so there might be more opportunities out there. And if they don't have the time, because it does take a lot of time, you can't expect somebody to sit hours and hours in front of a computer and then fill out all that paperwork for some of these grants. But I thought, that was something I kind of, in my mind, when I was hearing this, I'd like to look into to see if I can even, I've never written for grants, but I thought that might be helpful.
May I speak?
Yeah.
If you're answering the question in regards to grants that were applied to, yes.
Yes, since I've gotten to the library, which is about 3 years ago, I have applied for every single grant possible that is out there for us. I've applied for Stephen and Tabitha King grants, Friends of Maine Libraries, you name it, I've applied for it. And it's gotten to the point where any other grants that are out there would have to be for capital improvement at this point in time. I could apply for another Stephen and Tabitha King grant, but you know, you usually have to, you have to wait every 3 years to apply for another one. But you know, we have applied for every single grant out there possible, but I am still looking for more to apply for. But I've kind of reached the end. There are grants for 501c3s, but there aren't tons of them.
Well, no, there's not a lot, and I know a lot of them are very restricted.
They're small. They cannot be used for additional staff, maybe computers, bricks and mortar, children's books, that sort of thing. And that's what we really need the support for right now. And I just wanted to mention, we are going to make our best effort to, our goal is to raise $28,000 this year. And we have a very, very firm plan in place. So that's my answer to that, my response to that question. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just a question, Joe. I think what I'm thinking is right. If we vote and that motion is defeated, that motion is closed without being reconsidered, correct? That's what I thought.
Unless someone on the
Unless-
prevailing side brings it.
Right, brings it back up to reconsider. Yeah.
So the motion on the floor now is for $53,000.
The motion on the floor is for $53,000. So, I mean, you know, which I have no problem in calling that vote. And, you know, as long as people understand what would happen there. If the motion is defeated, then that motion, the motion itself is closed. The only way we could revisit a different figure would be to have someone move to reconsider that motion.
No, you can have a whole motion at that point.
Can you?
Once the motion's defeated, you don't have to have a reconsideration, you can have a motion for a new number.
Okay. All right, so the motion on the floor is for the 53,000. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? 3, 4. Opposed? 3. So the motion itself, that motion itself is approved.
Did you vote, Mr. Chairman?
No, he didn't.
No. So that would have kept it at a tie, which then wouldn't have done anything for us. Well,
If you have a tie, it's a failed motion.
That's true.
You want to vote?
All right, so let's take that. All those in favor
53.
of 53?
53.
Opposed? And the motion is defeated. We'll entertain a new motion.
I'd like to move the original article at $55,500.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Discussion on the 55.
I guess we could get into a circular situation. We can't-
Yeah, that's right.
Who's gonna blink now?
I guess we need Steve here.
Yeah, Steve should be here. Yeah, let's say, yeah, that's
I've got him on
true.
the phone.
Right, that's true. If we, if everybody stays their same vote, it's gonna still be.
Those in favor of 55? So we got 4.
55, right?
Those opposed? And that motion is carried.
You changed your
That was a tie as well.
No, it's a tie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We would keep going back and forth.
We can't.
No, it was 3 to 4. We got,
Because you abstained?
no.
Oh.
Probably.
3 there and 1 here, 4.
So I'll abstain
Unless
The
we get
motion is
Steve's
carried.
vote.
at 55.
55-5.
55.5.
55.5, sorry.
Yeah.
It went in at
I-
55?
Wait a minute.
Why?
You want to just double check
No,
that?
How can it?
No.
We got outvoted.
Well, we gotta do it again.
The motion was at,
55-5.
motion was at 55.5. And there was 4 votes and
Against.
And again,
So it's failed.
you don't know what your vote was.
and it's still 4-4.
So
It
it's
still
close.
fails.
So the motion
It
still
still
fails.
fails.
All right.
So the question is, do we go with another number or do we go with no recommendation? So when the motion fails, there would be no recommendation from the budget committee.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion at 54,000 even.
I'll second
Try to
that.
find a difference, try to find a median.
I'll second it, and here's the reason why. Then if we were to vote for that, that difference will have the discussion that we need to have at the town meeting. It will foster that discussion, and then we can allow the town to decide. And we're, you know, it's still real money. I'm not saying that it's not, but I think we're in the ballpark. So I would second that.
And I agree with Brian that it will, you'll probably get the bandstanding at the town meeting where there may be an influence to carry the selectmen's number, but it's all due process. And
I think it's a good compromise for us. I'd rather have a proposal, a recommendation from the
Yes,
Budget
I agree.
Finance versus
I agree.
not having them.
I agree.
I think that would be a mistake.
So the
Can somebody explain what happens at town meeting when the selectmen recommend this article and we do not?
It will depend on what, depends on the motion that's made.
Who gets up first?
Whoever makes the
Whoever
motion,
gets up
whoever
first.
makes the motion would, you know, and then you can get into, you know, if, you know, for sake of argument, someone goes up and says they recommend the 55,000 as the selectmen recommend. They can then, someone could then get up and make an amend it to say that they prefer the budget committee's recommendation of whatever it is, or whatever that other figure is. Or any, you know, they could also recommend a figure that is lower.
And usually what
Then-
happens,
Then that would get, you know, then that would get voted on, whether that amendment would get accepted.
then there'll be the discussion, because someone will say, why is there a difference? And then we'll have the dialogue. It'll all be good.
Now, but at the town meeting, if enough people should come up, can't a town, a person change the vote too? Like, can't they make a motion?
they
can't go up.
They can't go
They
down.
can only go down.
They can only go down, yeah.
But they can. But here's a question, Joe. So if someone takes the motion of 54 and it fails, can someone then take the select board motion at 55? Yes. Okay. 55.5. Sorry. Okay.
But that's the max, 55.
Right. You're right.
Okay.
Can't go above
Can't
that.
go
Right.
above that.
Right.
Any other discussion on that? All those in favor of the figure of 54,000?
No, there we go again.
5. Opposed? Motion is carried 5 to 3, 4. 5 to 3, sorry.
54?
Yeah.
54.
54,000. Article 32. See if the town, see whether the town will vote to carry forward any existing fund balance in the capital improvement program account.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Let's see. Article 33, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $986,886 for the capital improvement account.
996. I think he said 986.
We have
We have
986.
986, 886 is what's in the warrant.
10,000. I forget I got the old copy.
Motion to recommend?
Second.
Discussion?
I would not support this motion. My feeling is we run into a couple of times where, one, we're penny wise and pound foolish sometimes, and I'm plugging to put that 10,000 back into technology. And the other one is I hear comments about this is an expensive program. This is a double program in my mind. There's a TV station here and there's a computer network for the town. And I would hate to see us come back in a couple of years ago and say, hey, we bought cheap and the interface didn't work. And I think that's worse than spending the 10,000 now. So I would put that back in. I'm no expert in this area. Brian, you know a lot more than I do about this, but I looked at the equipment that he was buying and I priced it out, and it seemed it was in the Ford range of equipment. It was not the Cadillac range. And I think the original request for capital improvements to upgrade that TV issue is, I think it's warranted.
Right.
Yep. The couple comments. One is this particular thing, Marshall, doesn't really wrap around computers. This is around just the broadcast.
And that's where I meant my comments
Okay,
to direct
okay,
the cameras
okay.
here.
Because the
equipment
comment
back
I
there.
made about before, where we reduced the money, that does affect servers and the like.
And
But
I
this is
agree with
about
that,
broadcast.
right.
So I'll make two comments. One is Dom and Kevin did a very, very good job of sourcing, pricing. I agree. You and I think probably did the exact same thing, and we went online, and they did a very good job of finding low-cost solutions. I will make two examples, and this is where I know probably just enough to be dangerous, and I don't know what Kevin and Dom know. I'm not sure we need $800 of headphones. I know, and I'm just going to give you two examples. Noise reduction headphones are expensive. They run between $250 and $300. I don't know if we need $800, which is, about 3 sets. I'm not usually seeing more than one person involved. And it's nice to have backups, but do we really need to have backups at that level? The second one I would say would be the projector. I recognize it's an old projector, but I don't see it getting used that much. And it still seems to work when the signal's projected. I know that they made the comment that because it's analog that they would have to have a converter. I mean, I priced the converters. You can get a converter for $165. So that's $3,500 that they have in the budget for that item. So where I kind of got to was, I kind of like the select board's approach of saying, and with Dom's response of saying, take the 10 out, figure out how you can do it. And again, looking at a couple of other towns and the amount that they spend in this area, we are feeling like kind of a Cadillac kind of solution here. But overall, what we're spending on the equipment puts us into a pretty nice range. So.
You took a breath.
Yeah. So the 10,000 was an overall, just find it anywhere. It wasn't necessarily out of the technology upgrades or anything.
It's just the it was the technology.
It was just the technology. Okay.
But the specific pieces of equipment were not identified. It was, you guys figure out how to best allocate.
Keep in mind that this is inside the CIP account, which means anything that's in there is not cast in concrete.
Right.
Which means there is flexibility that exists inside that account, that if that were truly the case, that they had to spend a little bit more on there, that's the purpose of a CIP, because you can shift priorities, you can shift items and things in there. So it's a function of what you're funding in, how much money you're putting in there this year. That it's one of those things that just because it's in there doesn't necessarily mean it has to get spent.
There are
And we look at the May appropriations reports for that exact reason. Budget stuffing at the end of the year.
But as you look down the list, there are some things that are pretty much engraved in granite up there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
The bond payments, yes. So we could move 10,000 from Berkshire Avenue into technology.
No.
I think we have to do our due diligence with that project, make a determination whether or not we can even follow through with it and offer it to a public hearing and vote.
Yeah, I agree.
If we don't spend those monies, then we're not gonna be educated as to how we're gonna direct our community to pay into to their opinion.
My comment was not to find $10,000, Peter, it was to put back 10,000 in an area where I think we might be penny wise and pound foolish, and I really don't want to do that. The other thing I want to mention, this projector, I don't think you can use an Apple computer on that. I think it has to have a VGA connector to your computer.
I've got the little adapter in my bag, it's 49
If
bucks.
there's an adapter, it's great.
I'm trying to be smart, but that,
I'm a PC guy, I don't know.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion that's on the floor is the 986, 886. Brian?
Just to adjust on the Patricia Avenue, the one question I have is that the $25,000 that was allocated, as I understood it, at Select Board, was really, the thinking was a traffic study. And that makes the assumption that that's going to be developed for a public purpose. And that seems like it's putting the cart before the horse in terms of if that land was to be, something else was done where you didn't need to have a traffic study of it, then are we spending money? And we're going to do I believe the vernal pool is already in the budget. I know we're trying to hit the potential IRT timing, but it does seem like a traffic study is getting a little bit ahead, because if it was decided that that land should be just sold, for example, then the traffic study is going to be a very interesting expenditure, but not one that was ever needed.
I think what we were looking at, Brian, is the least expensive hurdles. Let's go over the cheapest hurdle first, and then go to the next one, and then the next one. And I perceive the traffic study to be a very inexpensive hurdle when you're looking at a couple.
Which might be the highest hurdle, I remember that also.
Could be, yeah, could be. Okay.
But my point is, if that land is never going to be utilized in something where traffic would be an issue, another for a public.
For example.
If it was sold to a private.
Then that would be the private entity's issue, I think.
Exactly. Well, then we would have spent $25,000 on a traffic study, which really didn't add any value to that particular piece of property.
Well, no, they can't use a traffic study to see what it's zoned for? I mean, wouldn't that help?
It wouldn't be required if they were putting in, I don't believe, I'm talking a little out of turn here because I really don't know.
Christmas tree farm or something.
Yeah, I mean, if they're putting in, I mean, they wouldn't, a traffic study wouldn't be required.
So, I mean, if the vernal pool study comes out.
Yeah, which is going to be done.
Says that, you have pools there, so that's not going to get spent.
Right.
You're only going to spend that if you pass the first.
There's no peepers up there.
Then to get
the peepers.
Yeah, then to get the
Down
second.
the bottom of the hill there is.
Oh, I bet.
Another discussion on the CIP?
Then the money could be moved if it wasn't used
Yes.
to another.
That's the whole purpose behind the CIP is you're looking, you're doing some long-term looking, and if something, something has to move or shift, and something doesn't have to, then, then you utilize that for other things that are inside there.
Yeah.
But that ties back into the selectmen approving anything over 35,000 on the shift of accounts.
Right.
Which just would qualify because it's 25.
Right, but they would have to, if they were going to use it for something that wasn't in the CIP, they'd have to first move it out of the CIP into the general.
So we're not.
I think it's 75,000.
Okay, but my point, thank you. My point is we're not monitoring the movement inside the CIP. Okay. As long as we're doing that, that's fine.
Yeah, so if you've got an acquisition there, that still has to be approved. So, this sets a block of money in there that can be used for, the select board still has to, or if it's a land acquisition, or there would have to be a public meeting vote to actually buy that. So the motion on the floor is to take the CIP at 986, 88. No, sorry. Yeah.
Yep.
986, 886. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Article Article 34, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $647,964 for the county tax account.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Article 35, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a total sum of $1,497,343 from the estimated non-property tax revenues to reduce the property tax commitment together with all categories of funds which may be available from the federal government and any other sources. It includes $10,000 from TIF reserve.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Is carried. Article 36, to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to accept or reject grants, donations, and/or gifts of money to the town of Raymond and to expend monies donated for specific purposes.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Article 37, to see if the town will vote to accept certain state funds as provided by the Maine State Legislature during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2015, and any other funds provided by any other entity included but not limited to Maine Municipal Revenue Sharing, Local Road Assistance, Emergency Management Assistance, Snowmobile Registration Money, Tree Growth Reimbursement, General Assistance Reimbursement, Veterans Exemption Reimbursement, state grants, or other funds.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Let's see, Article, oh, that's it.
That's it.
Thank you.
I guess the only other thing, if there is any other public comment, we'll allow that for 2-minute increments. Seeing none?
I'd like
Oh.
to say something. I wanted to say that I've been to all 4 of the meetings, the select board, the budget finance, and although my husband's been a town manager for over 40 years, I've never been to any of these. And I just really appreciated what a good, thoughtful job you've put into all of this, and I recognize all the hard work you've done, and I wanted to thank you very much for doing that.
Thanks, Sam.
If there's nothing else, we'll, before I adjourn, let's see. What we'll do is plan, unless there's anything comes up, we'll get together after the town meeting and look at when the end of the year reports come out.
Which I think last year was closer to September when that came out, so.
Yeah, that's a good meeting to have.
So we can take a look at that and see.
Right,
see
take a
where
look at the
things-
appropriations
See where
and
things
see what-
closed out.
Right.
Thank you for your chairmanship, Mr. Chairman.
Meeting is adjourned.